All right. On that note, I'd like to call to order the June 2nd, 2021 Parks Commission meeting, starting with a roll call. Ben Coronado, Parks Commission Chair. Mary Barber, Vice Chair.
Here.
Roger Henderson.
Present.
Nicole Hicks.
Here.
And from City Council, we have Spencer Abersold.
Present.
And from Public Works, we have Director Jeff Langhelm.
Here.
And Public Works Assistant Terry Garrison.
Here.
All right. So we do have a quorum, so we will be able to do approval of minutes. If there's any modifications to the approval, I saw that you got the Drucker addressed in that. Thank you. Other than that, I didn't see anything else from this last one.
I move to approve the minutes from the May Parks Commission meeting.
I'll second that. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Cool. All right. Minutes approved from the May Parks Commission meeting. All right. So we did have Ben Lawrence give his resignation. He cited family issues. Totally understandable. And then Anna was unable to attend, and Luis mentioned a work issue. So I know she's doing good things at PennMet and working hard on that. So we'll give her an excuse. We'll give her a little leniency. But she did want to touch base with me later this week just to get caught up. So I will do that with her. And let's see. Sorry, let me scroll down my agenda. Okay. So the pros plan update, the review of the level of service and goals and policies. So Jeff tasked us with, the subcommittee touching on the level of service standards and goals and policies and reviewing that for the pros plan update. Roger, Mary, and I did some review of it. It is a cumbersome task and very well might be out of our wheelhouse, but I think, there might be some good nuts and bolts there to kind of work off of. But Jeff, if you want to kind of touch base on what you had in mind and maybe where we are with, as far as the consultant, and maybe what the plan was with the city council, if we wanted to do a joint council Parks Commission meeting later this month, if that was a possibility still.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Good evening. I will start just by saying thank you to the subcommittee for providing those comments. Those were some great comments. And I mean, like you said, Ben, it takes a while to get through those policies and goals. And it seems a little far out there and hard. I mean, since it's not immediate, it's sometimes hard to think of and consider how all of these policies, goals, levels of service might affect us in the future. And you can see even many of them are outdated or just need to be dropped or just need to be updated. So, I mean, it's a large undertaking. So thank you for that. I will go through some of those comments here in a bit, but I wanted to start by giving a quick update first on the consultant and what the Public Works Committee meeting results were, because that's going to provide some direction and maybe answer some of the questions, comments that were provided on the review of the policies, goals, and levels of service. So let's see real quick. Terry and I have been working. In fact, she just right before getting on this meeting sent a consultant services contract over to a consultant. Consultant's name is Conservation Techniques. We are proposing to get their scope and fee to City Council at the June 14th City Council meeting. That is a key date that you as Parks Commission members may want to listen into because the request of the consultant, by the way, they have done some major pros plan updates for lots of agencies in Western Washington, and the closest one is actually PennMet. They just finished PennMet's pros plan update. But they've done many pros plan updates, very familiar with RCO requirements and how to get through and develop a pros plan that is not only meets the requirements, but is also functional. So what Terry and I have now is we have a scope and fee from them to do what we're calling the base tasks or base scope items. Those are the ones that are minimum required in order for us to check the box and say that we have met all of RCO requirements. However, we have also asked, his name's Steve, he's from Conservation Techniques, Steve, to provide us with a whole list of optional tasks that we know are going to cost more, but will further enhance the pros plan update and go into a deeper dive and provide quite a bit in response to the comments that we saw from the subcommittee. Now, Steve hasn't seen those comments. He will if council approves his contract. And Spencer's getting a preview of this, but right now, because we've been without a parks manager for such a long time and we haven't backfilled that position, if you recall correctly, I mean, the whole intent of the budgeted item in the 2021 budget to provide support for the pros plan update was for that consultant to provide support to the parks manager from starting the parks update earlier, right at the beginning of this year. And since we are here already in June, and we have barely started on the pros plan update, and we don't have a parks manager, and I don't see us getting a parks manager on board until August at the soonest at this point, maybe later. Just the base scope and scoped items from Conservation Techniques is over our budgeted amount because the Conservation Techniques folks are going to be doing more than what we initially had a consultant doing. So right now, I think that the number's just under 40,000 for the base scope items, and we have budgeted only 30,000. Now, the Parks Commission has identified, as has the Public Works Committee, identified some additional topics that they want to have addressed as part of the pros plan update. And so again, that's what we asked Steve at Conservation Techniques to provide us with some additional tasks and fees for that. And he did. The net result is the total that I'm recommending to council for a contract is, and I've Terry correct me, is it $68,000? Does that sound right? You're muted. Yeah. Oh, you're muted again.
It's just barely over 62,000.
62. Okay. So, but you can see that's more than twice what we have budgeted. Now, my justification is that A, we're going to be getting a better product. B, we have plenty of funding available because we haven't paid a parks manager salary for almost a year. And so I hope from the input that the council is going to receive from the Parks Commission and the Public Works Committee that council will be understanding and approve that contract. But that's going to be on the June 14th meeting. And so I'm sure that we will, if I'll be there to present this, you are welcome to provide input as a resident, unless the Parks Commission wants to make a majority motion to support the full contract. You haven't seen it, so it's hard for you to make a motion on that tonight. So it's probably not going to happen. I understand that. But if you want to individually come and speak in the public comment portion of the meeting, that might be helpful also, because I can distribute it. I mean, it's going to be distributed to council by Tuesday anyway. So if you want to read it, then you can do that. I saw two hands. Roger, yours was up, and Spencer, yours was up.
So the 62K is the base bid plus the options.
Plus the optionals,
And
yeah.
that would give us a relatively complete pros plan.
It would give us a relatively complete pros plan. I do want to go over, of course, we're going to touch on some of the items that were discussed in the comments by the subcommittee on the pros plan update, but I want to just at least touch on some of the comments that were made at the Public Works Committee meeting on May 11th. But before I do that, Spencer, did you want to ask a question?
Well, my question is, if council decides to do it, who is the consultant going to be working with? And does that person have a schedule that's free?
They do have a schedule that's free. I verified that they had the capacity to get all of this work done before the due date. Essentially, the final draft of the pros plan has to be ready for submittal to Department of Commerce by the middle to end of December of this year, because it takes, Department of Commerce has 60 days to review and a comment period on it. And as we proceed through that 60-day comment period, council has then the opportunity to review and approve the pros plan also. So it is a very tight timeline, and that's probably one reason why it's not just a one-person consulting firm. There, you'll see in the scope they provided some summary of their staff that's going to be working on it.
Thank
Roger.
you.
So a couple questions. Will we get to see the scope at the same time the council does?
Well, yes, maybe between Terry and I, we can make sure you see it, but it will be on the issued to council, provided to council on Tuesday afternoon. That's the 8th of June.
Okay, so in the scope of work, are we asking them to either get input or work with the Parks Commission, or?
Yes, there's
Okay.
multiple. In fact, I'll go through that real quick. I
right.
have it on the background of my screen. I was just going to go through that real quick before we
Okay.
jump into the comments from the subcommittee. Yes, Mary. You're muted, Mary.
I'm wondering, Jeff, obviously we cannot recommend approval of the contract, but I wonder if we can make a motion, and I can craft it while you're doing something else, but that says that the Parks Commission recommends to City Council the hiring of a contractor to help us, because of staffing issues, that kind of thing that we need to meet this deadline. So we can craft it without saying this.
Right, you can craft without saying that this specific one is the one that you're supporting, but just the general concept. I think that'd be great. Yeah, and then I can add that to my presentation, and then you can speak also at the council meeting if you like.
Yeah, and I'll also be at that council meeting because that's when we're doing Adopt a Park.
Right, that's true. Perfect.
Okay, thank you.
So quickly, I'll just go through what the Public Works Committee commented on at the May 11th meeting, and then I'll bring up on the screen the latest scope and fee that Steve provided Terry and I this afternoon. So quickly, one of the things that the Public Works Committee focused on was two things. One, they wanted to have the City Council and or the Public Works Committee have more touches on it. I know that was it last meeting or meeting before? Anyway, I threw up on the screen a schedule of touch points of when we're going to have the pros plan update reviewed in front of the public, in front of the Parks Commission, in front of the Public Works Committee, in front of the City Council. And not expecting you to remember that, but there were a few times, but there was quite a bit of time where there was just the consultant and the Parks Commission working on the pros plan update. The Public Works Committee wanted it back. They wanted to focus in July or even late June on what direction the policies, levels of service, and goals will be going when the Parks Commission and the consultant move forward with it. There was some concern that maybe that it was going too deep of a dive and too much throwing away the old and starting all new. So they wanted to provide some input on that. And so that we added, I think, 2 or 3 more meetings just with the Parks Commission / Public Works Committee and or City Council in there to have more of a connection with council so they could have an idea of where the direction it was going. And I think we added 1, maybe 2 more public meetings in there from the original scope that Steve provided us a week and a half ago. So it's increasing the amount of touch points with both public and Parks Commission and City Council or Public Works Committee. And that's one of the reasons why it's costing us more. But those are options now. You'll see when we look at this real quick, I'll scroll by quickly, but there's a bunch of options in there, and those are additional meetings in there. And if the council decides, no, it's not what they want, and they don't get as much input and comment as it's developed. One other thing that the Public Works Committee wanted to focus on, and I know that we've talked about it here at the Parks Commission, is operations and maintenance costs. They really were interested in having a thorough review of what existing costs were, if there were deficiencies in our operations and maintenance, and if it's something we need to add increased budget on, and what our future operations and maintenance costs will be for our future parks as they are not only capital projects are developed, but just more parks are acquired.
Is that something the consultant's gonna figure out, or that seems like a city rule, at least for the ongoing?
Well, it's a combination. There's a paragraph, I think it's task 5.2 is in there. And I don't remember if that one's optional or not, but yeah, that's in there. But it's combined. It's combined with operations, data itself, but then this gentleman, Steve, says he has metrics from other municipalities, other park districts in our area, and can use that data also. But you know, one thing I have to say, we went through a staffing study the city did in 2017 for operations specifically. And one thing I did notice, because the consultant FCS group who did that, they did identify that the city of Gig Harbor has some, and we talked about levels of service on all operations tasks, parks, streets, storm, water. And the city of Gig Harbor has some unique circumstances that tend to put it out on the edges of the norm. I mean, if you look at how much cost per, or how many employees we have per mile of streets, how many employees we have per number of parks and those kinds of things, we tend to be more on the higher side, but that's because our level of service is typically higher. And because in our case, look at some of the parks we have. Most places don't have as many waterfront parks with the amenities that we do. So it tends to cost more. It tends to take more staff. So, I mean, there's explanations for that, and it's all about level of service. If people can tolerate weeds and things not getting painted very often, and things looking, you know, so-so, then that's what you get, and you don't have to pay for it. But if you have a much higher expectation or level of service, then you will have to pay for it. So, so that was the Public Works Committee meeting. This is, you'll see when I bring this up, but they are wanting to have more touches, and that was added in here. So hopefully they'll accept it. So unless there's any more questions, I'm going to jump over to scroll real quickly through conservation techniques scope. Okay, here we go. Oh, sorry. Let me make sure it's up. I was reviewing a bunch of things, and so you don't need to see what all that I was reviewing. Okay. Oh, come on. Okay, hopefully you can see my screen now.
Yeah,
Is it too small? Could you want me to make it bigger?
you could make it a scoosh bigger for those of us that are old people. The
Okay.
young ones, they can look at half that size.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right, good.
So again, this version was just handed to Terry and I this afternoon. City Council has not seen this yet, but they will hopefully by June 14th. Yeah, close your eyes, turn off his monitor. So a lot of this stuff at the beginning is just simple stuff. Oops, sorry. This is one reason I gotta be careful I don't scroll too fast here. Review existing demographics, trends, and profiles. That's just baseline stuff. Community engagement. So Parks Commission sessions. If you see something, tell me to stop and I'll stop scrolling. Oops, that jumped from page to page. City Council session.
So
And-
you've got one virtual one for the Parks Commission,
Mhm.
and their scope of work runs from, I guess we hope it starts in July, do you think, or?
I know it's going to start he is available the last week of June, he said.
Okay, so we have July, August, September, October, November, December-ish, so 6 months of kind of active working, right? I mean,
Right,
a
yeah.
lot up front, but then there's writing it, reviewing it.
Yeah.
So is one meeting sufficient, or?
Oh, there's more.
Oh, I got you. Oh, this isn't the baseline. Never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
good.
just the start. Yep. Okay, so I'm going to jump on to the next one here. Okay. Oh, and I was going to say, he is based in Oregon. He does these pros plans all throughout. He is perfectly fine with doing everything virtual. I said that's where we are, what we are doing right now. And at some point, even though some of the live meetings, or even though meetings will be back in person, the city is trying to make it so we can still bring people together on screens. Even if some of us are meeting in person, some of us can also meet on virtually. So even if we start meeting again in community room AB, we can hopefully have other people that might not be able to attend the meeting, including consultants, attending virtually.
Saves money.
Yeah.
It's not as fun, but it saves money.
Yeah, well, he still said he'd come up here occasionally. Yeah. Okay, so Public Works Committee session, attend 1, August or September. There was also the task 3.2 was the city council. So that's the one that I'm focusing on, having the whole city council there to talk about this, because I think it's, and I mentioned this at the Public Works Committee, I think that there's going to be benefit to having the whole city council providing direction instead of just the Public Works Committee. Random sample mail. These are all, if you don't see the word option by the in parentheses on the side of the task, this is all the base tasks.
Base bid, yeah.
Okay, so stakeholder discussions. Social media. Okay, open house meeting optional. Okay. Don't see any hands. He does have deliverables. This is pretty common for our industry, where you have at the very end of the task what we expect to deliver, and sometimes we identify who's doing what. So yes, Mary.
The public meetings that were there, are those separate and in addition to a Parks Commission meeting, which could also be considered a public meeting?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Yep. Yep. And this is the deliverables. It's split between 2 pages. So sorry about that, but I can go back if you want. But you can see 4 individual stakeholder sessions, social media, 1 public meeting optional. Okay. Park level of service assessment. And these kinds of things that probably, hopefully, will address most of what we're talking about with the comments that I received from Mary, Roger, and Ben. Okay, gap analysis. Oops. Okay, here's the drafting of the pros plan. There's a lot of hours at the end you'll see in this task. Operations assessment, that's the optional one for operations and maintenance costs.
Oh, I got you, yeah.
Then it says utilize comparable city data and NRPA park metrics data. And then at the end, you put in here available city data, comparable city data, estimate forecast future O&M expenses for capital improvement list.
And Jeff, the NRPA data was recommended by the RCO, or is it required by RCO, or is that just like a industry standard?
I don't know if it's required. I know it is an industry standard. I don't know if it's required by RCO, but it's something that Steve says, yeah, that's something we should be using. This is a key one, capital improvement plan and magnitude of cost projections. Again, that's where it's key to have those costs reasonable when we put together, if we decide to go through a park impact fee update. SEPA checklist, that's something that staff could do if sorry, scroll too fast. If council didn't want to do it, I don't think it takes too many hours. And then drafting the plan again. Task 5 deliverables. Public Works Committee review. Parks Commission review. City Council review. I essentially gave Steve the exact same list that I gave the Parks Commission in terms of what the minimum we needed to move this through for the public process to be considered complete. So that's where he got these. Revisions and final documentation. There's the sessions. And then I think that's it. Those are the tasks.
Okay.
And then here's his schedule. Here's how he makes it work. and the meetings in here. Parks Commission, Public Works. You'll see this better. I apologize. It's obviously twisted. Do you want me to rotate it? If I rotate it, it's going to rotate the document, but you can see it a little better.
You could rotate this and we'll get back to it.
Okay, let me. How's that?
Much better. My neck
Better
doesn't
on the
hurt
neck.
anymore.
Yeah.
Initiation, existing conditions. So you're going to give them the park and facility inventory that we did. That'll help a little bit.
Yes, yes, yes. We will give them all that. Okay. Any questions on that?
We
Oh.
see it in task 5, but not past that. Is that correct? In the,
Correct. You will see it up
Current
until. Well, you'll see it. You'll see a little bit in task 6, or yeah. Well, yeah. Technically, no. You'll have to approve it by. Sorry, you'll have to approve it by the end of task 5.
okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah. Okay. Any comments on this?
I think this looks really good.
Okay.
So the deliverables, did I see everything as a PDF?
No, let me go back up. There was 4 bound printed color copies of the final pros plan.
Okay, but as far as, we had the issue with, we were trying to do some updates to this existing plan and everything was in a PDF or nothing was very editable. Are we gonna eventually, as a final deliverable, get something that in theory beyond the PDF could be editable, like all their tables and stuff? In case we want to make a minor update at a later point, we're not stuck with a PDF image that we can't do anything with. I'm just saying for future reference.
Yeah.
That
Let
we
me
do
talk to
have.
Steve about that.
Yeah. Since we are paying for it, the city of Gig Harbor is paying for it, we should at least have it so that it's, if we have to edit at some point in the future, it's easy.
Yeah. Okay. Let me ask him. For design purposes, we always ask for AutoCAD files in capital projects, but that's because we need to use those for reference.
Yeah.
But okay. And then just quickly summarizing, there's the schedule again. I've scrolled back up. Here's his costs. Let me try and get it all on the page. Fee summary with tasks, primary tasks, and optional services. So,
How much of this is senior level and how much of it is a entry level position? Can you tell that from the way I saw he's got the different
yeah,
it's
we
all broken
ask
down.
for this all the time.
Yeah.
okay.
So it's based off of, you can see a lot of it is the
A lot of
senior.
it is him, which is
Yeah.
good. That's great.
Yeah.
That's good.
But when you look at the total numbers, look at the distribution here. Most the 84 hours for the parks planner.
Well, but I guess I would say from somebody who does these, not this kind, but you kind of want the person to do the work and then the guy who charges the higher rate supervises it. And that's really where the balance is there.
Yeah, I agree. You don't want to have the person who is the principal do all of the work necessarily.
Yeah.
But also you don't want the opposite. You don't want the principal to only check in once or twice and call it good because you're not getting a thorough review.
Right. So, I think it's pretty well balanced. I like how he has it balanced.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions? There's also the same sheet is down here for the this is the optional items.
Oh, okay. That's for that. I was going to ask for the optional items. But
Yep. So.
I remember negotiating these.
Uh-huh.
I do remember negotiating these in my
Right.
days.
Yeah.
If you're done, all I can say, Jeff, is thank you. You did a good job.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah.
Very true
I've
for
been
both you
meeting
guys doing this.
Mary.
Yeah, I agree. I think it looks really good. I'm wondering if, and this gets into probably more the politics of things, shall we say, but if it makes sense to, how much it makes sense to break out each of the optional items to council, or if we could say, this is the baseline, and then this is what we really want, rather than saying, this is the baseline, and here's a list of 10 things we also want.
Well, maybe I'll answer your question this way. I am recommending to council in the draft council bill and the contract Terry's drafted up has council authorizing the entire amount.
Okay, good. That's what I think. That answers my question.
Okay.
What I don't want is, Spencer, hide your ears, cover your ears. No. I don't want them saying, well, we wanted to go to Public Works again, but we don't want the Parks Commission to look at it. And we want to do this, but we don't want to do, I don't want cherry picking.
Yeah, that could happen. Hopefully it'll be minimal. Or one of the things that we often tell council is, you're approving a contract for essentially an amount with these tasks. If you want to direct staff to limit that as you proceed and only authorize it on an as needed basis, we can do that also.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah. Roger.
So I think selling it to the city council is going to be letting them know that it's a whole package. And so they, aren't going to say, well, let's cancel all of the options and we'll just do the base and then expect they're going to get a whole pros plan out of it. I mean, I would see the options as being pretty darn important.
Yes, and I agree. And I think that's where there would be benefit for having Parks Commission members there to support it, subcommittee members especially, to say, look, we've gone through the existing goals, policies, and level of service, and it needs an update. And then I can explain why even the base costs are more than anticipated because of the parks manager. And we can always say, and the Public Works Committee wants some things too. So I don't think it's going to be a hard sell. I just think it's going to be something that we have to be pretty thorough with.
Yeah, and as long as it's explained to them that this isn't the intent of our comments, Ben's, mine, and Mary's, is not to overthrow everything that was in the original plan, but there was a lot of updates in there and stuff has changed over the last 6 years. I mean, it's big time.
Yeah.
That's why, okay, you have it. I'm happy.
Good. Thank you, Ben.
No, that was it. You touched on everything, and thank you, Jeff. Great
Okay.
job.
Are we ready for a motion?
Oh yeah, you drafted a motion.
Yeah. Okay, and Terry, I can send you this. Make your job easier. So I move that the Parks Commission, one thing before I start reading, do you want me to put the name of the company in there or leave it blank?
I would say leave it blank because
Okay.
yeah, it's nothing.
That's how I wrote it. I move that the Parks Commission recommends to the City Council approval of a contract with a consultant as recommended by staff to lead and facilitate the update of the Parks, Recreation, and Open Spaces Plan. Updating this plan is critical to our City of Gig Harbor Parks, as future grant funding is dependent on an approved plan by the end of 2021. The Parks Commission believes that hiring this consultant is the best way to meet the pros plan deadline because of staff capacity issues, predominantly the lack of a full-time parks manager.
Great.
Discussion.
Might touch on there just a little bit about the community outreach
Talk about
involvement.
it without a second. Then we can amend it.
Oh,
I'll second that.
Robert's rules.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. So, and then discussion.
Yeah.
So I'd like to propose an amendment to go ahead and touch a little more on the facilitation of the community engagement aspect of that as well. And maybe like their level of involvement that comes with the full scope.
So we could say, as recommended by staff to lead and facilitate the update of the pros plan, spell it out the first time. This includes
Like a robust community engagement.
and leading a robust community engagement program. Updating this plan is critical, blah, blah, blah. So I'll second your motion, or I
Thank you.
can't second my, the motion, the amendment to my, no, I can't second it. So I'll second it.
Okay. Any other amendments,
We can
discussion?
vote on that amendment before we do anything else.
Okay, any discussion on the
I'm gonna
amendment?
get you Robert's Rules for Dummies.
Um,
So now you
Second the
vote on the
amendment.
amendment.
yeah. So all in favor of the approval of the amendment to Mary's motion? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? No. All right.
Discussion?
Amendment passed. Any further discussion on the original motion?
No, I was gonna say, well, yeah, I have a little bit. The issue with the options, I think instead of, I was thinking just a minute ago, why don't we add that to the, say that base contract plus options? But I think when we're there at the 14 June meeting, is it 14 June?
Yeah,
That we just mentioned that. We don't need to put it in the,
that's why I said as recommended by staff.
okay,
Because I'm also trying to give some leeway as things get finished up that we're covered.
it's good. Agreed.
Okay. Any further discussion? We're voting on the motion. All right, let's go ahead and all in favor of proposing the motion, Mary's motion to City Council for the adoption of the, or for the proposal to the City Council. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. All right, so passed.
So Terry, do you need to put this in the form of one of those resolutions, or can we just include this way?
I think the motion's just fine.
Yeah,
It'll be reflected in the minutes without a
Yeah.
resolution.
okay, I just sent it to you, Terry.
Thank you.
Thanks,
I
Mary.
will include that in the council bill motion.
Awesome.
All right, well, the only other thing, and I don't know if it's worth going over, but I have on my screen available to look at the comments that were made on the pros plan level of service policies and goals. But again, I'm planning on just handing those over right to Conservation Techniques as soon as they're under contract.
That makes sense.
And they were included in the packet today, so I don't know if anybody had comments or wanted to further explain or enhance.
They were pretty extensive comments. So
Yeah, it's great. I really appreciate it.
hopefully they'll help the consultant along as well.
Oh, I think they will, absolutely. Consultants, I mean, in my experience, consultants really like and appreciate those types of comments because it really gives them direction. Otherwise, they flounder. They don't know,
Yeah.
they don't necessarily want to build a plan that is what they have in mind. They want to build a plan what the community has in mind. And you, as the representative of the community, provide that. And so they'll run with that. Yeah. All right. So I guess that's that item. I don't have anything else on the pros plan.
No, I don't either. And just as a weird touch, I heard that Nicole Jones-Vogel was a possibility or something. I don't know. Someone got in my ear. Is there any possibility that she would be hired out as like a hired gun for this? Or is that, I mean, I know we just did all this and so.
If we had more time, I would be very willing to consider that. She's already working. She's employed now, and we have a very short time frame. But if we had more time and she wasn't already occupied, I would definitely look into that further and try and make that happen.
Okay. Just thought I'd touch on it. Awesome. That went pretty well. All right,
Good
on to new
work,
biz.
team.
Unless any other discussion on the pros plan, as where we're going next with this, it sounds like Mary will be at the meeting and I will certainly try and the June 14th, 5 o'clock.
Same
Is
here.
that correct? And is there any, and Roger will be there, it looks like, and Nicole, you're obviously more than welcome. But as far as going forward, do we wait until after their meeting to go ahead and schedule a date for the joint session meeting, depending on his availability, I assume? The consultant's availability?
No, right now I gave him 2 dates. Let's see what those were. I'm opening my calendar. June 8th or June 15th. Or sorry, July 8th, July 15th. Sorry. And he said July 8th. So right now
Okay,
that's tentatively where it is.
Okay, I
Yeah, yeah.
have nothing going on either one of those dates, so.
Okay. Council tends to meet for their study sessions on Thursday afternoons from 3 to 5. That's why I was focused on those 2 dates. But those July 8th is not set, but that's just we couldn't get it in June, of course. And the sooner in July, the better, because we need that direction from council before moving very far forward.
Okay.
So as soon as he gets under contract, or maybe as we are approaching that, I guess I better wait till he gets under contract. But I do want to have Josh Stecker. He always helps coordinate council schedules. So to get that on the books for
Okay.
study session.
And then going forward, as far as he formulation for the survey, like the questions for the survey, is that something we should probably be working on getting together, or is that something he's going to help formulate? Or
Well,
I mean,
he'll help formulate it. Maybe that can be part of our meeting at the end of June that we're tentatively scheduling. I think we said that. Wow, I can't remember. He said he was available the week of June 28th, and I said, okay. And I think Terry, you're not here. Is he not here the whole week, Terry?
I'm out the week of the 7th. Or wait,
Oh,
July, the week of the 5th. So the
I thought
5th
you were
through the
gone
9th.
Okay, but you're gone on the July 2nd Parks Commission meeting, or not
It's-
July 2nd.
July 7th is the
Oh,
Parks Commission, yeah.
yeah, that's right. Okay, so you would be here. So I said to him, Steve, consider the week of the 28th, but not the second, June 28th, but not July 2nd.
okay. So it'd be before our next meeting then.
Correct.
Okay.
And I, just so you know, I'm not available Monday through Wednesday that week.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And I also will be out most of that week. I don't know if it will affect quorum, but just a heads
Okay.
up.
Okay.
Yeah.
I should be here that time.
I should be here as well. So maybe we could get a email out and see what part of that week would work best for everybody.
Yeah. Terry, would you mind doing a tentative or email and tentatively hold a date that works for most people? Thank you.
For the June 28th-ish week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that kind of seems like the next step is that June 28th one that we're eyeballing then, and then, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then again, hopefully at that, whatever date we're able to meet, we can work with, if he's approved under contract, we can work with Steve to have that discussion on the public outreach and process and everything else.
Okay. And is that immediate then after their meeting, assuming it is passed as such? Does he come under contract immediately, or is that like a week or two out?
There's some contracting items. He has to provide insurance, and we have to get a contract executed. I mean, it shouldn't take
Okay.
that long.
Okay.
Yeah.
His name is Steve. Okay. On to new business. Parks Appreciation Day discussion. I think with the lifting of the restrictions, now would be a good time to bring that topic back up and see if we can get that on the calendar so we can start, drumming up support and recruiting and, organizing for this event. We had discussed maybe possibly doing it later in the summer, near the start of school or after school starts. And so I just want to talk and see what you all had in mind and what you think would be the best date or weekend to get that in the books.
I'd like to look at September.
Okay.
I think it makes sense to do it once school has started again so that people aren't traveling quite as much.
Okay. Now, do we want to try and compete with the fair or do it post-fair?
When is the fair?
I think it usually runs till about the middle of September. I mean, or we could just do it. Let's see, we always do it on a Saturday. There's 4th, 11th, 18th, and 25th as weekend options in September. Nicole, do you know off the top of your head what date school starts?
We'll start usually around September 2nd or 3rd, I think.
Okay.
This first day next year or in September is the 7th.
Oh, 7th.
Yeah, it's late this next year. It's usually earlier though. I just programmed it today into my phone.
And the Puyallup Fair is September 3 to 26. So if we do it in September, we
Gotta
can't.
do it. Yeah.
Harbor
Okay.
Hounds is scheduled for September 11th.
Okay.
Is this just an opportunity to get in front of the public with information?
As far as the Parks Appreciation Day,
Yeah.
just to get a date set and, so we can start organizing it.
Okay, I was gonna say, because, it's election season, so having, there's gonna be a bunch of like debates and things like that where the real concentrated voters tend to come out of the woodworks for. And if you're looking to get into the hearts and minds of people, that's having something out front when people are walking in the library, you got totally receptive people.
Yeah. I think that's actually
probably your audience.
That's one of the places we usually market at anyways, on their boards and stuff like that, on their community boards. But yes, we make sure that one in the post office is usually at the top of my list because a lot of high traffic. So Harbor Hounds was the 11th. School starts the 7th. Any which way about it? September 18th or 4th? Preferences, scheduling conflicts?
Well,
I
the
have-
4th is that Labor Day weekend,
Yeah,
so maybe
So-
the 18th.
probably not there.
I had a question before we really nail down dates. Do we need to think about or talk about like how, I know it depends on, mandates and everything, and most of things are being lifted, but like how our approach would be with
Small children, kids.
distancing, or is it just kind of business as usual, or any kind of precautions still? I mean, it's still far off, I know, but
I think given that it's open air and outside, I'd hope people use their best judgment and, just provide that reassurance or that recommendation to, but I mean, I'd leave that up to probably each specific site supervisor possibly.
is it
Or-
with,
Up to
I mean,
each
is there
family.
is there a city stance on it? I mean, I think the Civic Center is still closed, if I'm not, to the public. So by then, do we anticipate that?
Right now, the city is looking to try and get the Civic Center, City Hall open to the public sometime this summer. As you know, June 30, pretty much we're back to operating as normal as the state. We have some things to do at the city to make it safe for our employees and the citizens to be able to come into City Hall. We're working on those. We've got some products ordered to have barriers in essentially, and adjust our cleaning and schedules and stuff to accommodate people within the Civic Center, the public. And we're slowly bringing staff back. I think that by September for sure, I see it, that'll be back to our normal operating. Whatever our normal operating will be from this point forward, it's not going to be the same as it was pre-COVID, but whatever our normal operating will be post-COVID, I think that September will be there.
Okay,
There were a couple of jurisdictions that did Parks Appreciation Day in April, and the way they handled it was reservation only. That way they knew how many people were coming to a site. So we might want to use that Sign Up Genius to have people commit to a park site. It might help.
That's what I was gonna say is when we were planning it before, we had a list of companies and clubs and that kind of thing that we were reaching out to. And I think that we were gonna use that Sign Up Genius. And if we do that, we pretty much have an idea of who's coming, and I think they would agree to the conditions and things ahead of time. And if they're not comfortable, then they wouldn't come.
Has anybody, does anybody know what PennMet's doing, or is PennMet planning anything in the fall? I don't think they did it in spring, did they?
I know
No,
they did not do one in the spring.
no, Tacoma Metro did theirs in the spring.
Oh, they
They're
did.
usually the ones we collaborate with
Okay.
for all the marketing material. So I think we're going to probably be on our own for the marketing material. Or so I know we can do the signage, and then we do the printed out posters. Is that right, Terry?
They provided the posters,
The
but
posters. Ours is more like the leaflet then, I guess.
we
we
can probably
did a-
come up with something.
We did
Okay, I mean-
did a flyer last year.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. That's right.
that
That's
we were
right.
gonna use.
Okay.
The big issue that we're gonna have too, I think, on a lot of these things is that Laura Pettit has no assistant right now, so we can't count on a lot from her. What she told me was she's happy to help facilitate, but she just doesn't have the capacity to do it right now on a lot of these things. So I think we have to, like we've been having to do on a lot of things, we have to pick and choose how we want, where we need to use her. Because we've got Adopt a Parks, Parks Appreciation, the pros plan, all of which we really need communication support for.
Right.
It seems
So-
like a lot to plan for between now and September. That's only a few months off. And with the pros plan, that so many of you are doing so much work on. Is it something we could pull together, do you think, as a commission?
And I guess my thought is, do we need to? Or do we go with the pros plan and adopt a park and wait to do Parks Appreciation Day until the spring?
I think with the Adopt a Parks, and I think combining the two almost, or using it as, like a celebration of the Adopt a Parks program, like combining it with Parks Appreciation Day, like getting those same people out there on that specific day, hopefully. Maybe that's just what we do, is like, roll out the Adopt a Parks program and, get everybody who's committed to, however many parks we're able to do, and get them out on that day. And, just call that Parks Appreciation Day and Parks Appreciation Day for this year. And that way, we have people out in the parks volunteering, and, they know who's going to be there. I don't know if that's necessarily Parks Appreciation Day, or the Adopt a Parks.
Maybe it's maybe it's the kickoff. Maybe what we do is between now and September, we work with Laura and stuff to try to get the people to choose their Adopt a Park. Once council approves it, and then whatever date we pick in September is the first date where we celebrate it, and we turn it into almost a media event, a city celebration. Maybe we could find somebody to give us hot dogs or something, like,
Yeah. And, if we were to do the Parks Appreciation Day as normal, or whatever normal is, I think it would be easier to pull off, being that we're not working with other municipalities as well, without, working with Key Pen and, Metro, and, all those extra meetings involved in making sure that we're all in timeline with each other, and that it's just our timeline. So I think it would be more efficient to work through the setup of it. But yeah, like you said, it is kind of a lot to try and pull off in just a couple of months. So
I think we're
okay,
gonna
so you
have
want to,
hard enough time pulling off the Adopt a Park.
yeah. Okay, so hold off until spring.
I think so.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
good with that.
Our parks could always use the help though, but it would
I
be
know.
time, and you couldn't really plant much or anything. Maybe plant some garlic. I don't know. But
And Jeff, can I ask you, when do we lose the seasonal public works? I mean, was there seasonal hires this year as well?
Yeah, we, most of them have already started, actually. We usually lose them in either late August or early September.
Gotcha.
What do you guys think about postponing till spring? Jeff?
I really think that there's gonna be a lot of interest in Adopt a Park, and I think that'll take a lot of pressure off, at least the beginning. But there's been a lot of pent up need for Adopt a Park and volunteers within the parks. So I see the same thing in Adopt a Road, garbage pickup alongside of roads. Been a lot of trash alongside the roads, but I think it'd be
And
nice.
all of those have been halted temporarily still?
Yes.
Un-
Yeah.
Okay. And
We're ramping back up to have those back active again, July 1 or so.
okay, so I mean, that's next month, so July and August, and then, you know, if we're eyeballing September for the rollout of the Adopt a Parks, that's 2 months to get everybody online, to get signage ordered. I mean, if that's something that we're trying to do with the rollout of the Adopt a Parks, and to recruit whoever we might for the Adopt a Parks, that's still pretty tight too, I feel like. And to get, you know, the
Well,
whatever word out about that.
yeah, I don't know if Adopt a Park is going to have people out in the parks by end of August, first part of September.
Yeah.
That later, but soon. I mean,
Okay. So Nicole, favor of postponing till spring. I'd be okay with that. Roger, Mary, it just
Yeah,
seems like a lot
you mean a lot to postpone, or we have a lot going on? That's
a lot going on.
I mean, we got the pros plan. It's gonna take a lot of time. and
Exactly.
Adopt a Park has to be working along. We're gonna have a new parks manager soon, I hope. I mean, August, all right, still. Yeah, I mean, we don't want to put too much on because we risk failing.
Right.
So I would be in favor of postponing it, I guess, till spring.
Okay.
Meantime, we try to do what we can with the parks getting picked up.
Yeah, I agree.
Some of your seasonal folks, can they do much pickup, or are they pretty well tasked out on other things?
they're tasked out. Yeah, they have a lot on their plate, and usually we have almost a full all 8 seasonals, and I think we're at 6 now, maybe 5.
All right.
And, you know, who knows, maybe we could just do like, you know, a trails day or something like that, where we have, you know, volunteers come out and, you know, pick up part of the trail or weed out part of the trail or something like that. It doesn't have to be a full robust Parks Appreciation Day. It can just be like a volunteer day at one specific trail or park or something like that to get a task done.
Do we have a task that has to get done? I mean, I guess that's what I kind of feel like with people being overtasked and that kind of thing. I don't know that I don't want to say an emergency, but I don't know that it's essential, that there's an essential project to do.
I'm always in favor of weeding out that holly forest. I mean, that's 100-year-old holly forest that is being overrun with ivy
Where's that?
at Wilkinson Farm Park.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's climbing up all the holly trees. It's thick,
Seems like
but
seven park commission members could do that.
I've started on a few of the trees myself. I keep moving that sign around to each tree that I start on.
I
Okay.
did that in last weekend in the backyard. Does that count?
Okay, it sounds like we're mostly all in favor of postponing it until spring, until we can collaborate with, you know, Metro Parks and Keep Hannigan and make it the full Parks Appreciation Day that it deserves to be. Until then, we'll work on that Adopt a Parks program and all the pros plan stuff that we're working on.
And I'll get with Laura. She and I were going to get together after the council meeting and figure out what to do.
Okay, as far as like what will
How we'll
idea-
roll stuff out, kind of put together a plan of what she can do and what she doesn't mind having someone else do. And
okay, that'd be helpful. Yeah.
So Ben, keep it on the agenda for next time. I mean, if there's an update between now and then, we could just always chat about it. Just keep it on the agenda so we don't forget it.
Okay.
Reminder.
All right, parks update, Jeff.
Sure. So hopefully you've seen the park update. You saw there's quite a bit of movement on the canoe and kayak race team lease at Antage Park. That's coming back to City Council at the next meeting. So there's a study session tomorrow actually on it. So I anticipate after that study session, it will be revised and brought back to City Council. So tomorrow, 3 o'clock. There was one other thing I was going to mention. Goodness, just blanked on it.
I did have a couple. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
The honoring sculpture, as far as where we're at in that process and the permitting.
Sure. That SMP, the Shoreline Master Program Amendment, is the key of getting that adopted. It's been through most of its land use process. It's going to be, I think tentatively, it's on the City Council's agenda for June 14th. If it stays on the agenda and the City Council adopts it, then we, the city, can submit land use application for the permit itself.
May.
I think tomorrow, Terry, do you have a meeting tomorrow on that? Is that right? Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. I think it's tomorrow. We've got a meeting where we're talking with the consultant to make sure they're on board. I sent them an email right before the end of Memorial Day weekend, or right before Memorial Day weekend, and they got back to me yesterday and they said they're on task to have the land use application ready for the week of the 14th. So assuming that, what's going to happen is there's 2 contracts we are working on to get that sculpture put in place right now, to get the design put in place, I should say. One is the land use application, environmental permits and all that. And then there's the other one, which is the actual structural design. If it was a small statue, I'd be comfortable with having the foundation base be something similar to what we use for our streetlight poles. But this is too big, too heavy, and it makes me a little uneasy. So we've got a consultant sitting in the wings waiting to start on the design. And actually, I need to talk with Terry and see if we can just lift the needle or set the needle back down on that record and have them continue. Because we had them under contract, what, a year and a half ago, and so if it's as easy as just hitting play again, then we'll just move forward with them. But that's the other part, is to get a design completed. But I can't give them permission to continue to proceed with that structural design and foundation design until I get a good sense that we're going to be able to place that statue, the honoring sculpture, where we anticipate placing it. And I won't know that until probably early July.
Okay. And I forget, did we approve fencing to go around that, or was there fencing recommended to go around that?
No, a gravel path is going to go around that, but that's it. It's going to be on a concrete base that's going to be up in the air a little bit. It's going to be a foot or 2 up in the air, maybe 3. I don't know. We haven't talked about that necessarily, but it's going to be on concrete, a little bit up in the air, and there's going to be a plaque describing, the artist and what it is and why it's there.
I had a question. Are there any security cameras anywhere in that area? I mean,
No, there's not.
okay.
No.
I mean, there's probably near the museum, but I don't think they're picking up that area.
No, they wouldn't be. I have to say, we did put a security camera on the wooden sculpture that was placed there at Crescent Creek Park. And we really, other than I think one instance, we really haven't had any issues.
Okay. It may not be such a big issue.
Yeah, at least,
all right.
Knock on wood.
And just to circle back on that real quick, the Fort Nisqually is putting on a webinar on Thursday, June 10th about the Medicine Creek Treaty and all the history of the Native people that were here. And Brendan Raynon is going to be one of the panelists for that webinar if you were looking for more information on the history of the Native people. So that's June 10th, Thursday through Fort Nisqually. So you just got to register through their website. And then I had one more question, park specific, with the Crescent Creek visioning, as far as the UGA issue that we had with the Masonic Temple. Do you know where we're at with that?
Yeah, so we have two properties that are technically part of Crescent Creek Park. One is Masonic Lodge, one is the Rohr/Miller property just to the north. We were hoping to annex those this year, but the city council, community development would like to do a annexation study before we annex any more parcels. And it was on their work task, community development's work plan for this year. But because of other priorities, I think it's moved down the list of priorities. So I don't know if they're going to get the annexation study completed, which means that I don't know if we're going to annex those parcels into the city limits from the UGA.
So would that put a halt on the visioning until that passes?
Oh, no, it doesn't. The visioning doesn't. The visioning will approach the both the Masonic Lodge and the park visioning as a whole as if it was in the city limits.
Okay, thank you. Nicole? Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry. So I just had an observation about the park up there, mainly the like the BMX jumps in that area. So we were up there a couple of weeks ago probably, and there were a couple of people on like the motorized like dirt bikes, you know, like the big huge ones with all their gear, like what you see out in Belfair on those trails. And I'm pretty sure that that is just limited to non-motorized bikes, correct?
It is. It's hard to enforce a rule. It's essentially we'd have to get the police over there. There's not a set of park rules just for the BMX park, but yeah, we wouldn't let a motorized dirt bike allowed in any of our parks.
Yeah, and I just wondered if I'm up there as a commissioner with my kids, I mean, what would you recommend? Just
call the police, call the non-emergency number, or I mean, if it's dangerous, call the emergency number.
okay. And then I've also noticed just an increase in garbage up in that area, and bottles and litter and things like that. So I don't know if there's any way we can put a request into Public Works just to, I know they're spread thin, but remember to check up there too when they're doing their rounds. I'll probably go up there with my kids and the garbage bags and the pinchers. They like to, clean things up, but do a little community service with the kids this next week or so. But just wanted to mention that.
Is there a garbage can? There is a garbage can, isn't there? There's a porta potty and a garbage can up at near the parking lot.
I think there's just one garbage can by the volleyball court, between the parking lot and the volleyball court, and then there's the porta potty.
Okay.
On the opposite side. Yep. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Roger?
A couple questions on the Crescent Creek Visioning Master Plan. That's all going to be done by HVB, right?
Correct. And Community Development Director Katrina Knudsen has said that she was going to provide some support also for the Masonic Lodge portion.
Okay, so what role will the Parks Commission play in any of that?
Very little in the actual visioning. It's going to, I mean, we'll check in with the Parks Commission, but mostly it's the public process. But there will be some check-ins. It's not going to be led by the Parks Commission, but there will be some check-ins probably, again, right at the beginning of the process and at the end.
Okay. Good.
All right. Any other specific updates or questions on any specific parks?
I just have to say again, I really like the new way that we're doing the update so that things are bolded and highlighted. It makes it easy to see what's going on and see what's happened. It's really nice.
Yeah, kudos for Terry for doing that. That looks great. And it might seem like we leave some bullets on there or some updates, but there is times where it's good to have some history.
Yeah.
It really is. It provides so much context. I really appreciate it. Okay. Any other questions on parks updates? No. Any committee report updates? Roger, you want to touch on the, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, attended the Leafline Trails Coalition meeting. It's a pretty big meeting. They have a lot of people. I'm very impressed with that group. So the earlier request for support, non-engineering support from the city staff. Probably going to hold off until fall. They're updating their network of trails through, again, King County, Pierce County, Kitsap County. They needed some input from Kitsap County, but they have some from us, and they're going to come out with a draft map vision in the fall of this year. And then I think we can look at it, and then maybe one job is we could say, hey, wait, this is missing and this is missing. And then we could get with you, Jeff, to say, okay, can you have a GIS person send some stuff over? So that was, it takes a little bit of pressure off that. But the thing that was interesting to me, they had quite a little presentation on a lot of stuff, but can I share my screen? May I share my screen? Just hitting the little share screen.
Terry can give you permission if not.
Should be able to.
All right, hit share.
Nothing dirty.
Okay, open system preferences. No, it's nothing dirty. Let me capture, good, all right.
It should be on the bottom of the Zoom screen where it
I
says
see that. Okay, fine, later. I'm just trying to see if it works. Yeah, it's not. Okay, so I'll walk it through. In one of the city reports on the extension of the Cushman Power Line Trail, there was a topic on the overpass on Borgen Boulevard. We got to connect those trails, and Borgen is a relatively major obstruction in any way, shape, or form. We obviously can't put any traffic lights there. That would mess everything up. And even having street crossing lights, that's a pretty dangerous place. People are ripping up and down that road. So anyway, I know that the cost or the estimate for that pedestrian cyclist overpass was somewhere in the $5 million range, $4 to $5 million, I think. But the Leafline Trails people were saying the Senate Appropriations Committee is now accepting earmarks. I guess our Congress is doing earmarks again. And roughly they're setting aside $4 billion, $40 million per senator. So 2 senators, 80 million for the state of Washington. There are all types of projects, not just for transportation. They said the sweet spot is between 3 to 6 million requests. So 5 million fits pretty darn well in that area. Do we know anything about that? I think it's Senator Murray, excuse me, is on the House Appropriations Committee, I think, transportation. She's one of ours.
And you're talking federal, right? Federal?
Excuse me.
You're talking federal?
Oh, federal. Yeah. This is all federal money.
Yeah, we already submitted, the city council submitted 5 projects to the federal via our federal lobbyist to the federal government, including Senator Murray and Representative Kilmer and Senator Cantwell with projects. Those included, let me see if I can remember them off the top of my head. Spencer, you can jump into it. It was 38th Avenue Phase 2 sidewalks. It was the roundabout metering at SR 16 Borgen, Burnham, Canterwood. It was Burnham Drive sidewalks. It was Gig Harbor Sports Complex Phase 1B, and it was the Wagner-Willachet intersection. Sorry, Wagner-Willachet intersection to have that signalized. So those were the 5. So we did that already. But you're right. That's something to keep in mind. If not, definitely not. I mean, this year it's not going to be moved forward by city council, but next time for sure.
So keep that on your agenda, because that would be a pretty optimal thing to have. Do we have a schedule on that Leafline, the Cushman Trail extension? Is that
No, it
contingent
needs to be prioritized by council through the budget process to have a design permitting contract move forward.
Is that coming up on the docket at some point on the council?
It's just in the, it's sitting there waiting in the wings for council to pull it off a plan and put it into action. I mean, we have that, we have a 6-year tip list. It's, yeah, it's definitely something that needs to be identified in the pros plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Mm,
that's all I got.
Okay, and then Councilman Rodenberg reached out to us after their Safety and Finance Committee meeting about somebody clocked at going like 50 miles an hour on the Cushman Trail and was wondering about safety signage or, you know, what could become with that. And Roger gave him some information on signage and what that might look like. And so I don't see, he proposed that to council or provide that information to council, I think at their last meeting. Just as far as the Cushman safety stuff goes, and the signage for that.
Provided him with a back of the envelope cost estimate.
Yeah. Which was pretty fast too. How fast you came up with that. I was pretty impressed.
It's just like what I used to do with the core. So yeah, I mean, I was actually surprised how inexpensive the signs are. I mean, not the labor to put them in. I got that. Labor costs more than the signage, but signage isn't that expensive.
Yeah, no, and I heard Councilmember Rodenberg's report to council. And that was great to hear. I am putting money in the budget again this year. We'll see if council supports that.
Okay.
But I think I'm putting in $15,000 is what my proposal is right now for signage. Your back of the napkin was 12,000, I think, Roger.
Yeah, it might have been that. Yeah, and that was for 48 signs, whether we needed 48 or not, because you need 2 each. I mean, at every point you need 2.
Yep.
So
Each direction, yeah.
I'm glad it helped.
Yep.
The only thing I couldn't do well on was the labor. I have no idea what you guys bill out at the city for digging a post hole, but
Yeah, that's okay. We usually don't charge that out in these types of projects. If we install it, we don't include our labor
yeah.
costs.
So the material side of what I did is probably easily within the ballpark. So good. Glad that I was able to help.
Any other committee reports? No, I don't think so. We are on the lookout for a new parks commissioner. So if you know anybody that'd be interested in joining us, feel free to push them in our direction and put in an application. It is posted already. Is it posted already, Terry? Do you know? It is? Okay.
Is there a closing date for that, or is it just open until there's interest?
I think the first review is June 14th.
Usually the Parks Commission one fills up. We don't usually have a issue with applicants. But June 14th, you said, is the
I
first
think that's
review?
the first deadline.
Okay. So yeah, if you know of anybody that might be interested in putting a few hours into the parks.
Has to be city limits, correct? This one?
Let's see. Where's Anna at? Is she city limits or is she UGA? It's still 2 UGA and then 5 city. I don't know where she ended up at on hers. I think she was city limits though. So I think we still have room for UGA.
I think you're right. I think she was city limits.
I think she was.
And then as far as public comment, I don't think we received any public comment. Nope. Okay. All right. Anything else anybody needed to touch on? No? All right. I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
I second the motion.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, you guys have a good week.
All right.
Bye.
Later.
Oh, adjourn.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Enjoy your vacation, Terry. Bye.